You don't have to do the same career for your whole life. If something feels really interesting and is pulling you in that direction, that's probably a good sign that that's a thing you should do and you're not tied to it. Listen to your gut, get really clear with yourself about why you want something and make plans and follow them, but don't allow your idea of what something should be to get in the way or cloud your ability to see what else is possible.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Path Found, the podcast about the real, messy, unexpected journeys that lead us to the work we love. I'm Monica Argandonia, and every week I talk with someone whose story proves there's no single right way to build a meaningful life. On today's episode of Path Found, I'm talking with Melissa Romero, who made a career change that a lot of people told her was risky, impractical, maybe even a little crazy. Melissa spent years working in California environmental politics. She wrote legislation, lobbied for recycling policy, and sued Amazon. She was successful. She was making an impact. And then she walked away to become a birth doula. This isn't a story about burnout or disillusionment. It's about paying attention to the quiet pull towards something that feels more aligned with who you are. It's about learning to trust yourself more than you trust other people's definitions of success. This conversation is honest, grounded, and full of wisdom for anyone who's ever wondered if there's something else out there for them. Let's get into it. Melissa, I'm so happy to have you on the show today. We've known each other for a while now, but I'm going to make you go back like I do all our other guests and tell me, what were you like as a kid?
I think I was really silly and goofy, and I think I had a lot of different interests. Like rock collections were a big thing for me. Doing good in school was very important to me. Always kind of a perfectionist, probably since I was little, but definitely silly and goofy most of the time.
So you get to high school, and do you know you're going to college?
Yeah.
Okay, that's on the horizon.
Yeah, that was definitely a requirement.
Okay. Did you know what you wanted to major in?
No, I didn't. And it took me a while because I was really into photography. That's actually one of my other passions. I was really into photography. So I thought I wanted to be a photojournalist because I thought that would be really cool. As if that's like a major job now. I'm not really sure that it is. But I actually applied to San Francisco State and I got in and paid part of the deposit for the student housing, and I backed out last minute. Something was telling me that I shouldn't go, and so I didn't. And a big part of it was because I didn't want to be in debt after college. And I knew that if I went to community college the first 2 years, that I had a better chance of not being in debt after I finished because my parents had saved up for me and my siblings to go to college. So I had a certain amount and I didn't want to be in debt. That was very scary to me. So community college allowed me to try a bunch of different things. I took literally every science with a lab because I loved science. I took astronomy, geology, biology, zoology, every single science with the lab, not because it was a requirement, because I just was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was like, I like all of them. I can't pick. Oh, environmental science. That's all of it together. Perfect. And I also had in high school, I had an AP environmental science class that made me really upset because I started to understand kind of how climate change was impacting people and the environment. And that was upsetting to me. I was like, well, how could why are we letting these rich people, do this stuff? Who's in charge here? So it was always an interest since then. And I think once I realized I could do that, it sounded really interesting.
So you really used community college to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, I used it to test out a bunch of different potential majors.
So then where does that take you?
So it took me to environmental science, but I also knew that I didn't want to be a field scientist. And I also knew that I didn't want to be in debt. So that's what led me to Cal State Long Beach because it's one of the more affordable CSUs that also had an interdisciplinary program because I was like, okay, perfect. I can involve kind of the real world. How does government interact with environment? Because that's actually where things happen. I knew that. So that's what led me to that. And I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought that's what you had to be to change laws, but you don't.
Right. So, okay. So that's where we met at CSULB. So what did the program teach you what you needed to know? And, what did you do in college? Because I know you were pretty active.
I was because I was only there for 2 years and I really felt like I need to get the most out of this experience. This is 2 years of my life. It was the first time I was living somewhere different than living with my parents. And so I just wanted to like get everything out of it. So I did. I mean, I like started up back up the, club for environmental science, did all the things, like volunteered, did all the classes, always had like a full load of classes and was like, just trying to get every possible experience. I did the Leadership Academy, the San Gabriel Mountains Leadership Academy, just like all the things. I wanted to get all of it. So that is kind of what helped me understand what I wanted to do, because when I was in the environmental law class, well, whoever it was knew that I wanted to go to law school because I voiced that. I said that, I want to, this is what I want to do. He looked at me one day and he goes, "You're not a lawyer. You're an advocate." And I was like, "Is that a job? Can I get paid for that?" I thought that was like protesting. And he was like, no. There's jobs to be advocates. And I was mind blown. So that was my first lesson, is like, your dream jobs you don't know they exist yet, more than likely. So yeah, that's what kind of led me to understanding, okay, what does that career path look like? And oh, great, my parents live 30 minutes from Sacramento. That's the capital of
Right? Where it all happens.
So that's where it happens. It was kind of perfect.
So when you graduated, what'd you do?
Well, I tried to get a job in Long Beach with an environmental nonprofit. So groups like Natural Resources Defense Council, et cetera, all of the different ones. Couldn't get anything because I didn't have any experience. So I decided, okay, I can't afford to live here. I need to move back home with my parents. So I moved back home with my parents and I took an internship with a very small organization, Californians Against Waste. And that's what got my foot in the door to the Sacramento environmental advocacy world, because I had it's a very small organization. So it's very like nimble and I kind of could do whatever. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write bills. I'm going to, be super extra and get involved in everything because I just want to know what's out there. And so, yeah,
So there's a bigger story there, because you didn't just get an internship. How did you get that internship?
So my boss at Cal State Long Beach, he told me about Californians Against Waste. He told me about them because he was working in like the recycling stuff for his whole career. So I called them one day and I was like, "Hi, I want to work for you guys." And would be my future coworker, Teresa, answered the phone and was like, "Oh, okay. When are you going to be back in Sacramento?" And so I told them I'm going to be back in August. So they said, "Okay, why don't we like interview you over coffee?" So I got there. I did an interview with her and my future coworker, Nick, my future boss. And they were like, "Can you start as an intern in January?" And I was like, "Yeah, amazing. I can't believe this is happening," but it was unpaid. So I was living at home with my parents. I had a second job in addition to my unpaid internship so that I could pay for the gas and the parking. And I was like 3 months in, and I basically gave them an ultimatum and was like, "I'm either going to start getting paid or I'm pretty good at this. I'm going to go find a job at one of these other organizations." And they were like, okay. Well, we want to keep you. So I worked there for 3 years after that.
That's awesome. So what kind of work did you do?
So I did a lot of lobbying for recycling, compost related, like textile waste, incineration, anti-incineration, all kinds of waste and recycling related topics. And I got the chance to write a bill that was about food waste, which was really cool. I kind of just copied what other bills looked like and was like, is it really like, okay, anyone can just write a law. That's cool. And I did a lot of other stuff, like nonprofit stuff, like the social media, the website, like a lot of different types of things. I also helped with enforcement campaign about plastics that were illegally labeled biodegradable, which there's no such thing. And it led to a lawsuit that got Amazon sued for like $1.5 million. So that was pretty cool.
Nice. So you liked your work.
Yeah.
Why did you leave?
I left because I got a call from Mary Kreisman. At the time, it was called California League of Conservation Voters. So I'm a very extroverted person. And I, at that time in my life, said yes to probably too many things, but it also led me to a lot of connections. It led to a lot of visibility. And so somebody noticed that and they said, "Hey, we want you to work for us." And at the time, I had a lot of imposter syndrome, even though I was doing everything and I didn't think I was qualified for the job they were offering me. It was actually really, really weirdly difficult for me to accept it because I felt like they're going to find out that I'm not the right person for this job, that I don't know what I'm doing. So I said yes. It actually took quite a while. They had to like really convince me. It was funny. It was like a running joke between me and my boss. He had to like fly to Sacramento to like come and talk to me and like basically try to convince me to work for them because I was so at the time not understanding my potential. And so I said yes. And for a while, it was difficult and it was hard because I was trying to fill someone else's shoes, which I learned is not the way to do it.
It is. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the way that people can be the best at what they do is to be themselves, to do things the way that they are going to do it, not copy someone else, not try to follow someone's footsteps. You know, you can learn things from people, but you can't be someone else. And I think at the time, because I had such horrible imposter syndrome, thinking that any day they were going to find out I wasn't qualified for this job I was doing. I was just desperately trying to like do things the way I saw other people doing them. And it didn't feel good. It felt horrible. And then I think it took probably a few years, if I'm being honest, to really get over that and start to really feel comfortable being myself, being my authentic self and my whole self at work. And it made me really good at my job. I was pretty good at it once I figured that out.
But it took a few years.
Yeah, it did. It did, definitely.
How long were you there?
I was at that job for 7 years.
Did you like it?
I did. I really liked it. Obviously, like super stressful at times, but which, you know, like any job can be. But at the end of the day, I was always really proud of what I was doing. And I really liked the people that I was working for. Like I really felt like I trusted them and believed in them and they felt the same about me. So it was just a really like healthy workplace in that sense. Although it's, you know, anything working in politics is very unpredictable and fast paced, rapid response a lot of times. So you really have to be ready for that.
All right. So you did that for 7 years. Then what?
Well, after probably I would say, if I'm being honest, the 7th or 8th year, I started to feel like, what else is there? Like, is this what I want to do forever? I started to observe the people who had been doing this same job as what I was doing for 20, 30, 40 years. And I didn't want to be them.
And how old are you at this point?
At that point, let's see, this would have been like 4 years ago. I was probably like 28. Yeah, I was 28 because I'm 32 now. So at that time, I was like, all of the like people around me had this formula to their career. They were going to work inside the Capitol as a Capitol staffer. They were going to work as a lobbyist. They were going to get a governor appointed job at a state agency. And that was not interesting at all to me. I didn't want any of that. And I looked at the people who were advocates for a very long time who were really good at what they did. You know, arguably, they were really amazing at what they did. I didn't want to be them. And I just said, okay, well, what does that mean for me? Do I stay in this job because it pays the bills and I like it most of the time? Do I change what I do? Do I go the like soul sucking corporate route? That doesn't sound fun. So I was at the birth of my niece, my first niece, Clementina, and that was 2023. And my sister had a birth doula. And birth was always an interest of mine, like always a whisper, always like something that was really interesting, but I didn't know what to do with that. What are you supposed to do with that? Again, your dream job you don't know it exists yet. Mm-hmm. So at the time I knew what a doula was and I thought, well, that sounds really amazing. And so my sister had a doula and I got the chance to chat with her while we were at the birth of my niece. And it just snowballed from there. I was like, oh my God, this is an interest of mine that I've been ignoring. I haven't been paying attention to this interest. And the more that I learned about it, the more I felt this like undeniable pull in that direction. And so I said goodbye to my limiting beliefs that I can only have one job at a time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be a birth doula on the side because why not? Why do I have to make a whole career change in order to experience something I'm passionate about? And so I did. I went to the training. I've attended 5 births since then, including the birth of my second niece. And then, you know, I knew that it wasn't an option. I had to do this. It was like inevitable at that point. And so it was something I did on the side for a while, for 2 years. And every time I would do it, and I'd be in a hospital room with someone in labor, and it's like 2 a.m. and my back hurts because I'm like helping them with some counter pressure in between contractions, I would think to myself, and I would still do do this over my other job, like
Really?
over and over and over again.
Wow.
Like it just felt, I don't know, it felt right. So I started to plan. I started to plan and I started to think about what it could be like to change my careers. And it was really difficult to think about for a while because I had a lot of limiting beliefs that told me, well, birth doulas don't make that much money, so you can't make a career out of that, which is not true. And I learned to believe in myself, my abilities. I learned to be open to opportunities that I don't know exist yet. And I learned to let go of my idea of what I think something is going to be and allowing, all the possibilities to unfold, because the chances are things are going to go better than you imagine. I really believe that.
Okay, so even when you were doing this on the side, you got the training. Like, how were you getting jobs? How were you getting clients? What were you doing to push to move forward on that end?
I told everyone I knew.
Okay.
I told everyone I knew at work, my friends, my family, I'm doing this. I'm a birth doula. I didn't say I'm training to become a birth doula. I said, I'm a birth doula. I can help you. If you know anyone, let me know, And so I also found Facebook groups for moms and pregnant people in Sacramento and started posting, hi, I'm a low-cost birth doula and I would love to help you with your birth. And so I got a couple of clients there, did a few Instagram ads. And other than that, it was word of mouth. That's the same as how my photography business started. I failed to mention this, but I actually started my photography business the same year. So for my entire life, since I was like 12 years old, I had been doing everyone's headshots, graduation photos, maternity photos, family photos, everyone in my life. I was doing that for free as a gift. And I was finally ready to make that a business the year that I decided to do the trainings for becoming a birth doula, because I felt it really went well together, like as a business model of I can take your maternity photos, I can be your birth doula, and then I can take your newborn photos, and then I can take your family photos. So just call me 5 times a year and I'll be there.
So you're the complete package.
Right.
So not only did you pursue just one job, you are now doing 2 side gigs.
Yep.
And the third. Okay. And then you're talking about how you had to learn to, take this risk and that it was going to be okay. But how did you do that? How did you learn those things? How did you make that leap?
It took a while. And for a really long time, the voice in my head was telling me that it wasn't going to work out, that, I was making a bad decision. Everyone around me was saying, oh, you shouldn't be quitting your job right now. That's such a bad time. The economy. And so it put a lot of doubt in my mind. So I talked with everyone in my life. I talked with my parents. I talked with my friends. I talked to my spiritual guides. I talked to a lot of people. And I think that words of affirmation do actually really work. As like cheesy as it feels at first, it really does work, because my inner voice started to change and it started to tell me, well, what if it's amazing? And what if there's people that you're going to meet that are going to completely change your life that you wouldn't otherwise meet? What if there's opportunities to make a stable income that you don't even know about yet? So I started to really believe those things. It wasn't just something I was telling myself, but it did take a while. I had this plan since last February. So a year ago, I started to have this plan that I was going to leave my job. So it took a while, and it took planning and calculating risks, but also not too much planning, because I didn't want that to hold me back.
So when did you leave your job?
I left my job in December, and I gave them a really long notice because I felt really attached to the job, to be honest, and the people. And I think it was partially because I tend to be like, even to this day, even though I've resolved a good amount of it, a perfectionist. And part of that is feeling responsible for things that you're not responsible for. So I felt really responsible to this job. So it was difficult, but I also knew that I had to do it. I wasn't going to allow this opportunity to just be like a what if. So yeah, I left my job in December, and the long period of time that I had really allowed me to like go through all the emotions and get to a place where I felt really certain about my decision. Like without any doubt, I felt like I'm doing the right thing. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
So right now it's February. What are you doing?
So one of the cool things about moving back home with your parents and saving a bunch of money is that you can save up to do something really cool, like go to Mexico for 3 months. So something I've always wanted to do because my parents never taught me Spanish, and it was just something I always felt like it was missing from my identity. So I found a Spanish immersion program in Mexico, and I decided, you know what? There's a lot of need for Spanish speaking doulas. I also really wish I spoke Spanish. I really wish I knew it. Why don't I take this opportunity between and during this career transition to go and do something I've always wanted to do, which is stay in Mexico for a long period of time, learn Spanish, and then when I come back, I can actually provide a service where there's a gap. There's a real need in Sacramento. There's the doula agencies I spoke to didn't have any Spanish speaking clients on staff. So I'm sure they exist, but it seems like they're kind of hard to find. So it's a huge need. And especially knowing what I know, having worked in politics, the state has paused or frozen new signups for Medi-Cal for undocumented people. So anyone who is becoming of age to sign up for Medi-Cal, let's say this year, who also might be getting pregnant, won't have a health insurance. So, that felt like something that I wanted to provide a service to people to fill that gap.
So you're in Mexico City. You're learning Spanish.
I'm actually in Puebla.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Puebla. So that's like 2 hours south.
Okay. When do you come back?
I come back in April.
And then you jump in.
I jump in. I've already started to make connections with birth workers in the Sacramento area. So I have my people that I'm going to connect with, that I've been connecting with. I know what the agencies are, what the organizations are that do the work in Sacramento. So I'm just going to jump in and put all of my creative energy into it, which I'm so excited to finally be able to do. So it's not like a side gig anymore. It's like I get to fully dive in.
And it's your own business. You're not going to work for anybody.
I'm hoping to work for an organization
okay,
to get more experience, because I think a lot of people want a birth doula with a lot of births under their belt. So it'd be nice to do that. But for the time being, it is my own business. It's connecting with other birth workers to take clients that they can't take, to put up Instagram ads for myself, which I've been doing and I'm also going to be a birth doula for one of my family members and one friend when I get back. So I have things lined up.
And you're still doing photography?
Yep. I still have my photography business.
That's a lot. That's a big change.
It is a big change, but it's so fun because, it's like the things that you want to do, but you feel like are impossible. And then you're like, wait, I can actually do those things. I have free will and I have support. So why not? Like, why would I let that go by and be a what if?
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years, maybe I'll be a midwife. Maybe I'll be a really successful birth doula who has created amazing organizations and communities in Sacramento to connect people who want to reconnect with their culture and their ancestral practices in birth, because that's really what I'm passionate about. Is birth is ancient and people have been supporting each other during birth for hundreds of thousands of years. Being a birth doula is not a new job. The name of it might be new. The professionalization, if that's a word, might be new, but it's ancient. And I think that if people understood what their bodies were created for, I think they would have a lot less fear around birth, which is really what's happening. And, hopefully by then I would have saved a few people's lives without really realizing it, because that's another one of my passions with birth work is really, there's a lot of racial disparities in maternal and infant, outcomes with birth for people of color, for Black women in particular. And if I can save one person's life, my life would be made. But you would never know that, right? You don't do it to know that, but that's what drives me.
Do you see yourself ever going back to the environmental world?
I don't, but I have a feeling that I'll end up getting involved in political advocacy around birth work related things because, everything is political. Everything has a law attached to it, a limitation that is based on some old or maybe rich person,
And you have the skill set.
Yeah, I do. So I already got kind of excited about that possibility when I was at an event with other birth workers. It was a birth workers of color event. And one of the people there is one of the advocates for an organization that does advocacy in Sacramento around birthing people's rights. And I was so excited when she was talking and said, I think I'm going to end up getting involved in that. But it kind of works out because it's kind of marrying the two skills.
So looking back now, what would you tell your 21-year-old self?
Well, the thing that I've already said a few times, which is that your dream job is, you don't know what it is. You don't even know about it yet. You don't know that it exists yet. So don't get caught up on what you think is within the realm of possibility. Just keep following what you're good at and what you're passionate about. And if something, whether it's a job or a person, doesn't feel right or feels off for you or starts to feel off, listen to that feeling because it's always right. That was such an important part of this whole career change for me, was really understanding the difference between what I actually wanted and what ideas were put in my head about what I should want. Like, oh, I should buy a house. I don't want to do that. What? I don't want to buy a house. So, that's just a silly small example, but it's true. When you especially are growing up with a lot of imposter syndrome, it's hard to differentiate. What do I actually want and what was put in my head without my consent, without my knowledge? So that was a really important thing that I wish I could have figured out, but I also feel like everything happens how it does for a reason. So,
and as students are graduating high school, figuring out what to major in, right? There's all this pressure. You got to pick a major and stick with it.
Mhm.
What would you tell them? Like, it's tough right now because they're worried about AI and they're worried about, being able to get a job. And I think that's a good point you make about these things that we're told that we want, but do we really want them? So what would you, if you could go back to your alma mater and stand there in front of them, what would you say to them?
Well, what I would say is probably like if you have a dream about something, if you have a dream about doing something, becoming something that feels impossible, talk about it out loud and watch how that changes. Watch how the possibility starts to change. And there's no timeline. There's no right answer. You don't have to do the same career for your whole life. I actually think it's really deeply unnatural for people to do the same thing every single day, Monday through Friday, for however many years we work, really long time. I think that there's seasons to life. And if the season that you're in at the moment, something feels really interesting and is pulling you in that direction, and it also makes you feel like your authentic self, that's probably a good sign that that's a thing you should do. And you're not tied to it. It's not forever. There's no rules. There's literally no rules. Listen to your gut. Get really clear with yourself about why you want something. Get really, really clear about that and make plans and follow them. But don't allow your idea of what something should be to get in the way or cloud your ability to see what else is possible.
Melissa, I know that you are going to be super successful. I've known you for a while. I knew you, back in Long Beach, and you've just put your heart into everything that you've done. And I think that'll be your key to this new journey, this new adventure. I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
So thanks for sharing your story and that great advice.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you so much for listening to Path Found. If anything we talked about today connected with you or gave you a new perspective, we'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared the episode with someone you care about. You can also find us on Instagram at Path Found Podcast. To explore more stories, resources, and ways to get involved, visit KeystoneNetwork.org. This podcast is just one part of the journey. At Keystone Network, we're helping young people and anyone figuring it out as they go build meaningful futures one step at a time. A huge thank you to my podcast editor, David Strutt. You can find him on LinkedIn for helping bring these stories to life, and to Elizabeth Miner at Silvermine Creative for the beautiful artwork and web design. And if you're on your own path, navigating the unknown, making a pivot, or simply figuring it out as you go, just know you're not alone. The route may not be linear, but there's always a way forward. I'm Monica Argandonia, and I'll see you next time on Path Found.